So close to where I grew up, it was a mental hospital that had been
Oh
abandoned
my gosh.
probably 15 to 20 years
Oh yeah, I
prior.
mean, of course you would go. Why would you go there? Why would you do that?
An adventure? Why not? So we went in, and it didn't work out too well because we saw headlights coming down the road. So we jump in the car and actually had a little bit of a car chase because the headlights coming were the police, military, whoever it was that was patrolling.
No way. Jump in with both feet.
Go big,
Follow your dreams.
grab life by the reins.
This is how we live.
We're Callie King
And Andrea Wadey, 2 horse trainers always looking for adventure,
and finding it. Join us for stories of dangerous travels,
wild animals,
new challenges,
and in the end, always learning.
alongside our magnificent horses.
So saddle up.
And follow along. You're listening to Grab Life by the Reins. So I want to talk about trespassing. And I think this is top on my mind because I read a book recently that you bought for me as a gift called Mutant Message from Down Under
Yeah, great book.
by Marlo Morgan. Incredible book. It tells the story of this woman who did a walkabout with the Aborigine people of Australia. And there was one point in the book, there was so many good parts of this book, but there was one part where they talked about how the idea of owning land is so foreign to these native peoples. And I agree with that because I like going where I want to go,
Yeah,
exploring.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the indigenous people, like, they feel like they're guardians of the land. Yeah, so that said, that doesn't mean that we can just wander around America going wherever we want. However, we mostly have been doing that. Where have you ever trespassed that you look back and think, that was super sketchy?
Well, the one that comes to mind is where we were in an abandoned underground tunnel system.
What?
But before before I go
Oh my God.
before I go into that one, I just have to say, I know you can relate to this. It's so much easier to trespass on land when you're riding, when you're on the back of a horse.
Oh, absolutely.
Because people I'll be going across land where I actually do know that I shouldn't be there, but I figure, I think I can get away with it. And people come out and be like, "Oh, what a beautiful horse.
Yeah,
Where
you can
are
get away
going?"
with that.
And then later I'll be on foot walking across and they'll be like, "What are you doing? Get out of here."
Yeah, you're not allowed to be on this land.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Horses can kind of you can get away with things on horses, but you obviously didn't have a horse in a tunnel.
No, that was interesting. So I went to this place 2 times. Went the first time. We got chased out only about 40 minutes in, which of course just made us hungry to go back and explore more. So we went back like 2 weeks later with an additional person.
But what are these tunnels? What are they?
So close to where I grew up, it was a mental hospital that had been abandoned.
Oh my gosh.
Probably 15 to 20 years.
Oh yeah,
prior.
I mean, of course you would go. Why would you go there? Why would you do that?
An adventure? Why not?
Oh my gosh.
We'd heard that you could go and that you could park off of a road and you could hike through the woods and you could, walk into this place, and that it was basically wide open because when the facilities were shut down, everyone just left. And the land was now owned by what I was told was a small military base that was close. So it wasn't actively being used, but it was patrolled.
It was government owned.
It was government property at this point.
Oh, perfect.
Yes. At least it wasn't private property.
That is private property. I think you need to look up the definition of private. Government owned, definitely. A government facility. Yeah.
So we went in, and the first time that we went in, You look back and you think, man, as teenagers, we were really dumb. I went in with a
Yeah.
friend who brought her then boyfriend along, who decided it would be fun to dress all in black and bring a plastic sword.
Oh my gosh. Had you not been drinking?
No,
Wow.
we hadn't.
Okay.
Yeah, because we drove into the place
Oh, yes.
and got out. And part of his plan was that then he would like sneak away from the rest of us and then jump out with
Freak you out.
with his sword. And the funny part was that it didn't work out too well because he was the one that got most freaked out when we saw headlights coming down the road. Because this tunnel system, you would go into the tunnel system and then you could come back out at various buildings. So the tunnels were used to connect residential halls to treatment facilities to like learning facilities. And so you could kind of be up and down.
Wow.
And we would go through. And I remember this one part that we went down these stairs, and that was probably one of the scarier parts just for physical safety, because a lot of these structures were getting pretty rickety at this point. So we go down these stairs, we get into the tunnels, and going along, and there would just be a wheelchair sitting there. There would be, you'd look into a room and documents were laying out on desks. I mean, it was obvious that people had just literally gotten up and walked out of the place.
Oh, that's freaky.
When it was closed down.
So when you saw the headlights, presumably that was someone coming into that facility. You were coming up out of the tunnels?
And he was the one that freaked out the most, took off running.
Left you?
Yeah, he was leaving everybody. He's just run for the woods. And then so he was taking off. We ran after him, got in the car, because actually this time we had parked. We decided to save ourselves walking, since that was smart, drove kind of into the facility.
Oh my goodness.
And parked there. So we jump in the car and actually had a little bit of a car chase, because the headlights coming were the police, military, whoever it was that was patrolling.
No way.
And they literally chased us out. And it was my boyfriend driving at the time. And he was flooring it. I don't know how he remembered all of the roads to get out of that place, but he did. And we made it out, got back on public roads, and just flew out of there and didn't get caught. But that's what whet our appetite to go back the second time. And
why would you go back again?
Well, first I went with a group of girls, because obviously I knew we could be smarter, all girls, no weirdos wagging swords around. And also we parked off on the public road, hid the car, like covered it with leaves, because that's what you do.
You've been watching too many movies.
And then we hiked in through the woods to get in. But I'll tell you what freaked me out that time is we walked up. This time we went up. So before we went in, we went right down into the tunnels. This time we're like, okay, let's go upstairs, see what's up there. So we went up. We went into this one room. When you're in those situations where the hair on the back of your neck just stands up?
Oh, no, mine is right now because it's going to frighten me. We
went into this room, and of course, flashlights, we're in there. It's like 1 a.m. So we're in there with flashlights. And all of a sudden I'm like, this isn't old bedding. And there's some things here. Like there were
Someone
things
was living there
all around the place, because obviously it wasn't emptied out, but you could tell when something was not super old. It was very used, wasn't new, but it wasn't old. And the hair stood up on the back of my neck, and my friends were kind of like poking around and lifting things. And I was like, guys, there's someone that's living here.
And could be a psychopath.
And this is the person we don't want to meet at 1 a.m.
Well, no, because anyone that's kind of living in an old mental institution, they're not going to be too happy about you poking around in their stuff.
Yeah. And we're also when we were in the tunnels, it actually was a lot safer because someone up didn't know that we were down there.
Yeah, for sure.
When we're upstairs and there's windows and there's lights flashing around because we're in there with flashlights, anyone that's outside knows we're there. And this person who we're in his room is going to know that place like the back of his hand.
You don't get scared very much, and I know this about you, but did that not frighten you and ring a few alarm bells?
Yes, but I typically get scared in the let's assess and take action.
Yeah.
So I definitely got fear, but I got that fear of like, look, guys, what we're doing is stupid. We need to get out of here. Now, we didn't leave the place. We just went down to the tunnels.
See, like, I just don't understand you. Why would you do that? I wouldn't have been there in the first place. That would have freaked me right out. I don't like scary stuff. And you find out someone's living up here, you're possibly about to get murdered, so you go in the tunnel, like any sane person would.
So we go into the tunnels.
Oh my God.
We go down the tunnels. We start exploring all the rooms. We're like trying to build this mental map of where it was from the last time we were in there. And we were probably in the tunnels for about 30 minutes and we came back up. And we're like, okay, we think we know where this other building is that we want to go to. So we're going to walk there. So we're now outside in the complex walking and we see those darn headlights again of the people patrolling.
Oh my God.
So we took off to go back down into the tunnels. Well, they saw us running, so they knew that there were people there. So now they're on foot with their flashlights, and we see them out, and we're running back through, retracing our steps through the tunnels to get back, basically to retrace to go all the way back to our car, because we didn't know our way around here well enough to say take another route. So we're running through, we would hide out, turn off all our flashlights, see the flashlights going by of people walking up top, because occasionally in these tunnels there would be like little windows.
Yeah.
And then we would take off running again. I remember we came up out of the tunnels. We had all of our lights off. We were in the one building and we had to go down this big flight of steps that was kind of like big entranceway. And then we had to run across a big open, which was the parking lot at one point, and then into the woods that would take us back to where our car was.
Oh my goodness.
And
why would you do that?
I like the feeling of adrenaline.
You think?
And that was one of the moments that was a good hit of adrenaline. I actually remember standing there and you mentioned feeling fear. I felt afraid, but I felt so excited, like, oh, this is just awesome.
See, not me. I would have been expecting someone to leap out from behind a tree and murder me. That would have been it.
It is wild how we all have different things that excite us. But we made it back to the car. We were quite winded by the time we got back.
Well, I'm not going there with you if you get any bright ideas, because I know it's not that far from here, so I'm not doing it.
We're only 1 week from Halloween as we record this.
Perfect.
And they have now privately turned it into a haunted attraction.
No, I'm not going.
So we could go tonight.
No.
And there'd probably be people with swords jumping out at us.
No, not doing it. You took me to an Airbnb last week that nearly made me poo my pants, and we're going to talk about that in another episode, but no. I did trespass once on the abandoned set of the Survivor TV show in Nicaragua. Which is random. Yeah, it's random, isn't it? We were in Nicaragua. We were doing a border run to renew our visas when we first moved to Costa Rica. And there was a bunch of us. Everyone used to go and do their visa runs every 3 months. It was fun. And we were surfing, and it was really remote. It was before a lot of people were going to Nicaragua, funnily enough, because it's a bit sketchy. Although the people are lovely and I love the country. Governments suck, though. But we were on the beach and we went hiking way up this beach, and we were suddenly looking and we were like, what's that? It looks like an old fort or something. And we got up there and we were finding all sorts of things on the floor, like laminated like badges and things. We're like, what on earth is this? And we climbed in, which isn't the smartest thing to do because Nicaragua has lots of snakes and it was all a little bit overgrown. And we started to find like all of these big wooden carvings that were like, like you get the tiki carvings and stuff like that. And we were like, this is really weird. And one of the local boys hiked up with us and he was like, yeah, it was the TV show Survivor. And we were like, no way. And apparently Survivor is like franchised all over the world. So there's like a German Survivor, an American, whatever. This was the Russian one.
So does that mean that it was all Russian contestants?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, Nicaragua would be pretty opposite to Russia. So that seems like it would be a legitimate test.
Yeah, the governments are quite friendly. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But so we go in there, and all of the old spears and everything were there because they kind of make it that sort of thing, don't they? Where it's all like, jungle warfare and all that. So we're running around with the spears, all playing in private land. Everyone's like, no, you can't go in there. We're going in. We had so much fun. So we were running around. We were finding like shields and spears and all chasing each other around. It was super good fun. We didn't get caught, and we all went home. But it's one of those really weird ones where it's like, oh, do you remember the set of Survivor in Nicaragua in the middle of nowhere? Yeah, that was the time actually we went with my friend Mark as well. He had come down was from England. And he said when he came to see us in Costa Rica, his dad had said to him, the one place you must never go while you're down there is Nicaragua. It's really dangerous. Well, yeah, parts of it is, but where we were wasn't. But we crossed the border on foot, and the first thing we did was take a picture of Mark standing under the Welcome to Nicaragua sign with bullet holes in it and sent it to his dad. He was not best pleased. Yeah, too funny. But yes, trespassing. Land ownership, it's a weird thing, isn't it? It's like, really? Like private beaches. Who owns the sea? No one owns the sea.
So what's the best story you have of trespassing with a horse? We started out talking about that, how it's easier.
Actually, I do have a trespassing with a horse story. I have several, actually. But the one that sticks in my mind is my friend Dominique and I there was this particular lane that you're not allowed to go up with horses on. You have to go a really long way round, and we were like, no, we're not going to do that. But there's a cattle grid in the way, which is a bit dangerous. To be fair, cattle grid is like the poles lying on the ground that the cows can't get over, otherwise their feet would go through. And you can usually go round them through a gate. So our goal was ride up to it, open the gate, go through, and cut off about an hour's riding to get home. So we're going up there, and we see coming across from the right one of the farmers, and he's running on foot towards us, and his sheepdog's running along behind him. We were like, oh no. So we just burst into a canter, go flying up the lane. By now we're galloping, and he's yelling at us, and I could not help myself. I turned around, I was like, no, catch me if you can. And we were gone. Then we realised we couldn't slow down to open the gate. So we jumped the cattle grid, which we were young. We were really young. It was stupid. The horses could jump. These were jumping ponies. They absolutely flew it. We thought we were the coolest things ever because we'd been chased off by the farmer, and that was fun. The other one I remember was with my friend Lou. We kept our horses together for years, and there was an outbreak. It was very sad, actually. There was an outbreak of what they call foot and mouth disease in cattle in Cornwall, and they were shutting everything down. And it was being announced that day that all movements were being closer. We went out on the horses knowing we wouldn't be able to ride for months. And we were riding back, and there was this big farmer's field, and it's not, like I'm here with you in Pennsylvania, and we've gone out on the horses, and I've said, is this your land? And you're like, oh no, it's one of the other farmers. They don't seem to care. In England, they care. In Cornwall, they care.
Wow.
Do not ride on their land. You're going to get in trouble.
Is it because of damaging crops, or it's because of just more...
Well, I don't really know. I mean, I see a whole different culture when it comes to land. Like when I drive through Pennsylvania with you, you've got all these lovely houses with their great big front lawns, but there's no fences or hedges separating the neighbours. No, we don't go in for that in England. The bigger fence, the better. Don't want to look at you. Don't want to see you. This is my land. So it's just a little bit different. I think that's why, in centuries gone by, we're quite ashamed of how, the British kick-booted around the world and took countries. But the farmers don't like you on their land. They just don't. Yeah, crops, all sorts of things, letting out wild, livestock, letting out livestock. But This day we were going by and there was this huge field, and we knew it was the last ride. And actually it turned out to be the last ride we had for about 4 months. And we looked and we went, can't resist. And we galloped around and around and around that field. And actually we did see the farmer. And you know what he did? He smiled and waved at us because he knew what was happening too.
Yeah.
And it was really sad. A huge amount of farmers lost everything. And I think he just looked at us and went, go for it, girls. And we just kind of smiled and rode home. And then we spent the rest of the day trying to catch this delinquent goat called Polly, because Polly was cloven hooved. And the restriction on any animals was with a cloven hoof, or horses don't have a cloven hoof. But if there were any animals in with your horses who had cloven hooves, you were not allowed to move those horses. Well, we were going to run out of grass. So Polly had to get out. Polly was the most stubborn, naughty goat I've ever met in my life. She used to come on rides with us.
Big goat?
Big goat. Big goat.
Like a milk goat, like the ones with the floppy ears?
Yeah.
Oh, I love goats.
Big girl. She was lovely, Polly. I absolutely loved her. Apart from the time I nipped down to see my horse really early in the morning and I was wearing my clothes for the office I worked on, and she was tethered on a great big rope. It was winter. She ran around behind me, took out my legs, took my legs right out from under me, and I landed flat on my back at like 7:45 in the morning in my office suit.
I bet she was just staring right over top of you too.
She's like, yo! But this day with the foot and mouth, we had to get her out. So we got her up and over the hedge. That meant we could still move the horses from field to field. But yeah, trespassing.
Well, when you were telling your story of when you outran the farmer and jumped over the cattle guard, I attempted to do something similar. I was out riding in the evening, so it was out after dark. And I blame it on the fact that it was after dark that I didn't see that I was riding through alfalfa. And alfalfa, at least here, if it's been freshly cut, the fields, you can ride over it because it doesn't damage it if it's not wet.
Yeah.
But if it starts to get a little higher, more than just a few inches, you damage it if you ride across it with a horse.
Which is fair.
Yes.
Yeah. So you went right across the middle.
I went across it. I wasn't right across the middle. I was staying towards the edge. However, my horse started to spook at something that was in the, we were kind of going by the farm, like by the farm buildings. So my horse started to spook at something. So she's kind of jumping out into the middle of it. And then the farmer saw us, started flashing the light, his light on us and yelling, which scared her even more.
Oh, no.
So then she jumped even wilder. And then I fell off in the middle of the field. So now it's really hard to make a getaway once you fall off.
Yeah, that's it. Game's up then.
I still had a hold of the reins. I was kind of in that stage of half trying to get up and falling and being half drug. And by that time, the farmer was pretty much on top of me.
Well, it was his fault. You fell off.
Well, I was riding in the field. But yeah, he's yelling. I'm getting drug. Finally, I managed to get up, leap on. I'm like kind of half shouting apologies and also trying to talk to my horse. We ended up also making a speedy exit, but way less successful than yours. At least it was dark enough. And I think because of all the chaos, he didn't get a good look at my face. Because the next day I rode right by in the day and I waved at him.
So he didn't know it was you.
Not from the field, from the road.
I love it. What stands out for me most with that story, because I love that story, it's funny. But you used a word that doesn't exist in English. And all of my American friends do this.
What is it?
Drug.
Yeah, the past tense of drag.
No, doesn't exist.
What do you say?
Drag or dragged.
Ah,
yeah.
Okay.
Because I remember my friend saying to me, oh, it was this crazy thing and I got drugged. I was like, oh my God, what happened? What drugs did they give you? And she's looking at me going, what are you talking about? I'm like, you got drugged. She went, yeah, I got drugged right across the path. I'm like, I am so confused right now. I'm like, dragged. You got dragged. Honestly, you lot kicked us out way too early.
It's like when my mom offered you a cider earlier and you politely told her you don't drink.
I don't drink.
And she looked very confused.
Yeah, cider in our country is very different to your cider.
Well,
we have a saying with cider, legless but smiling.
Well, on that note, let's go have a cider.
Let's go and have a cider.
Thank you for listening to Grab Life by the Reins. If you want to see ridiculous photos from our adventures, be the first to know when we release new episodes, and be a part of more shenanigans, join our email family at grablifebythereins.com.
We'll see you in the next program.